GenerateBlocks 2.0 has rebuilt all of their blocks from the ground up. Now, a lot of this was for performance reasons, but we actually get a lot of new functionality as well. With several of the blocks, you might not even notice the difference other than having the updated styles panel, but the query loop block got a whole lot of new functionality that you need to be aware of. So in today's video, I thought we'd take a side-by-side look at the old query block and the new query block to see what's changed and what new kind of controls we have. I think you're going to be really excited about all the new things you can do with the query block. This video will just scratch the surface, but I think it'll give you a really good idea of what you need to be looking out for when you switch over from the old version to the new version. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around and let's get started. Now, just to make it as obvious as possible, when I'm flip-flopping back and forth between the old version, which I have labeled here as 1.x, and the new version, which I have labeled here as 2.x, anytime we're looking at the new version here, I'm going to have my system preferences in dark mode. And whenever we go back to the original version, I'll be back in light mode. So you'll know if we're in the old version if it's light and the new version if it's dark. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new query loop block in here. The first thing you'll notice is in the old version, this is labeled query loop. However, in the new version, it's actually just labeled query. So we'll go ahead and add this query block here, and we'll add the query loop block to the version 1. Now these default layouts are the same in both versions, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go with this 2 columns and featured image in both. Now here in version 1, you'll see inside of our query loop, we have a grid block. Inside of that, we have our post template, and inside of that are all the blocks that we have inside of this card. However, in the new version, we have our query block. Inside of that is a looper block, and inside of that is our loop item with all of our loop items inside of it. We also have a container down here that has our pagination and a container for our no results. Let's go ahead and look at all these differences one by one. Back here inside version 1, if we click on the query loop here, we see we have select post type, which just gives us the option for post and pages. Now, if you had custom post types registered on this site, you would also see those in there as well. And then you have the post per page and then any parameters you want to add to this query. In the new version, we can query the post, which works for both post or pages. We can query post meta, which I did cover inside of another video where we talk about repeaters. And we can also query in our options. Now, option pages are a really cool thing that we can now use inside GenerateBlocks. I have another video where I kind of shoehorn this together with another system to make it work. I'll have to go back and make a new video now that this is all native. But we definitely have some more query types now, which makes this quite a bit more powerful. Now, just like the version 1, we can go in here and select our page or post. We can select the post per page, and we can add our parameters. One addition here is that we now have control over the tag name, so we know which HTML tag this query loop is going to have. Here it's set to div, which is totally fine. We also have styling controls for the query block. I don't really foresee needing to style this query itself. We'll probably be styling the looper and the loop item. However, I really like the idea that if it's on our page, we're able to style it and control it if we need to. So I'm glad that they included these controls, even if we don't really need to use them. Back here in version 1, let's take a look at our grid block. If I select it, you'll see the only options we have here are for our layout. We can select the horizontal gap, the vertical alignment, and the horizontal alignment. Now, the old grid block, which has completely been done away with in the new version, used Flexbox to control these different column layouts. That works okay, but it's definitely not as flexible as being able to use all of our display properties, specifically being able to use CSS grid, which we can now do in the new looper block. Back here in the 2.0 version, if I select my looper block, you can see we have these little helpful column layouts that get you started. By default, this is going to use a display of grid, which we see here in layout under display grid. You can use these little helpers if you just quickly need to grab some different columns, but you have full control over here to select your grid layout however you want. Of course, if you didn't want to use CSS grid, you have the option to use any of these display properties, including going back to Flex if you're more comfortable with that. However, any kind of post grid like this is going to work really well inside of CSS grid, so this is a huge advantage to the new looper block. We also get full styling control over this looper block as well. If you'll remember, in the original version, we couldn't set any of these different CSS properties on the actual grid block. And back in the settings, again, we have control over the HTML tag, which is great for improving the semantic HTML of our pages. Hopping back into version 1, we'll go into our post template. Here is where we start getting all of our styling controls back in the original version. And that actually works really similar in the new version, but here we have the brand new styles panel, which comes with all of our blocks inside the 2.0 release. Now, if we wanted to set up pagination inside the original version, we'd have to go back here to our query loop and press this little plus button, which would give us our controls for pagination down here at the bottom. It adds a container, and inside of it, we have 3 different buttons: the previous page, page numbers, and the next page. This has all the old styling controls, and you can do a lot with it, but you don't have the control that you have now inside the new pagination setup. Here in the new version, again, we get a container with the previous, page numbers, and next buttons, but now we have the new styles panel, which means we have a lot more control over the look and feel of each one of these elements. Now, one thing we didn't have in the old version that we do have in the new is this no search results. This is essentially a div that gets placed inside your query with a text block inside of it saying no results found. You can of course change this to say whatever you want, and since this is just really a div, you could go ahead and add new blocks inside of it. If I went in here and said I wanted to add an image block, I could go ahead and add an image inside this no results. Now, I probably don't need to add an image here, but it's nice that we have full control over what's shown when there's nothing inside of our query. Out of all the blocks that have been rebuilt in the 2.0 version, I think I'm most excited about this query loop block because we can do so much with it now that we couldn't do before. Not to mention all the styling control we have now that we're using the fully updated styles panel. If you learned something new in this video today, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, and if you want to make sure to catch the next one, hit subscribe, and we'll see you then.